What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pens and Tea. My name is Carrie. Today, I have to record this video again. I've already shot this entire video. It was a little over 20 minutes, and I have to redo it because with this, I have two, and this was the one I was using. This was the one I was using. It died. It died. Yep. It happened in my last video I shot, which you won't be able to see unless you are a paid Patreon member. Because, fun fact, my fountain pen sale video is live for all Patreon paid tiers. So go check that out. The very end of that video, it did cut out. There was no audio. And I think it's because this is the first time I've ever had to charge these. And I don't think I charged it. And so I just recorded this whole video and it died. So I'm using the second one, which is why I'm holding it in front of my face so I can make sure that light stays on the entire time. So it's not broken, it's just I'm dumb and didn't charge it because I've never used one that I've had to do that before. So if you are a paid Patreon member, you have access to that video, that fountain pen sale video from today, Friday, all the way till next Friday. So next Saturday, so 1 week tomorrow for everybody else, the video will go live with whatever is left. 2 pens have gone so far in the hour that it has been posted, but don't fear. I'm sure there will be still some left over. Okay, so I don't want to wait too long to get back into this video. I'm going to try and remember everything I said while I drink a sip of coffee. While I talk about the 5 fountain pens I will never, ever buy again, even though a couple of them I actually kind of like, but for reasons I will let you know, they just aren't right. There's enough things I don't like about them. And so I'm going to start with one of those fountain pens where objectively it's a good pen, and that is the Pilot Vanishing Point, which I know seems traumatic for me to have a Pilot fountain pen on my top 5 never gonna buy again list because spoilers, there's 2. There is another Pilot coming. But the reason why I chose the Pilot Vanishing Point as the first one to talk about, these 5 are in no particular order, but there's enough things I don't like about the way that the Pilot Vanishing Point operates. So I don't like the click action. The first half of the click is like nothing. It's just like you're pressing air practically. And then the second half of the click is when you actually engage the mechanism and you really have to force it down. The click is kind of clunky. It's not a very smooth action. And I don't like that, both in and out. Not a fan. I also really don't like that you have to completely take apart the whole pen to check not only the ink level, but to put the cartridge in and out. You can't see anything that's there, and then you have to be hyper vigilant when you put the nib unit back in order to not squish the nib. And that's too much. That's too much. And the writing experience, the actual like nibbed paper, is fine. I'm totally fine with it. But because there are so many things that are like annoying about it, that it's fine is not good enough. And so for that reason, I'm not going to do it. Like the clip placement, I know is a big thing for a lot of people. With the Pilot Vanishing Point, was never an issue for me. And the fact that there's no grip section or anything like that, and it's all like traveling down, not a problem for me. I have very dry hands, very dry skin in general. So it's not an issue for me, but it's just all of those other issues, and they're pretty darn expensive. I've owned a couple Vanishing Points in my time. I've ordered the all blue one with the gold trim, and I was one of the lucky original owners of the Pilot Vanishing Point that was the Twilight finish. Gorgeous looking pen. Oh my god, one of the sexiest pens I've ever seen. It was like the first ombre one they did, where it was like a baby blue, cool blue that like came down into like a purpley color. Gorgeous, absolutely stunning. But I just never used it. So I'm pretty sure it was about 2 years ago, No, 20, oh gosh, longer than that. 2018, I think is when I sold that pen. So first, wouldn't do it. The next pen, I'm going to put a bit of an asterisk on this pen because I have included this pen before in this type of list. I like to do these every so often, like once a year, every other year, because my opinions change. And this pen has been there before, but I need to put an asterisk on it. And it is from Tibaldi, and I never remember the name of it, so I will write it here. Light's still on, we're good. um, because I had such a miserable experience with that fountain pen. I didn't like the way the striations lined up. It just seemed sloppy. The barrel, like screwing into the nib section, was squeaky. It was just bad. The nib itself, while not horrendous, was not my style. A little dry, not scratchy, but a little on the feedbacky side. And it was just thing after thing after thing. I just was not happy with this pen. And it's an expensive pen. It was like 300 something Canadian dollars. And it felt cheap. Like it felt like the pen should cost less than $50. And that irritated me to no end. So I did sell the pen either last year or the year before. I can't remember. But the reason I put an asterisk on it is because before I sold it, I wanted to make sure that still nothing was officially wrong with the pen. It was just my bias, I suppose, against it. So I did re-ink it up because I never want to sell a pen that either doesn't function or has something like horrendously wrong with it, unless I am over the top, like pointing it out to you, because I want what you expect to show up. Imagine that. So I inked it up, and I remember not hating it as much as I like initially had. Me and the person that ended up buying it went back and forth for quite some time about this pen, just because again, I was selling it at a crazy discount. It was like 50% off or something like that, because I just didn't like the pen, and I just no. So we went back and forth. She had me ink it up to test it out again, and I didn't hate it as much as I thought. And so now I'm like, okay, like sure, it still squeaks, but you could put some silicone grease on that. The nib wasn't as bad as I remember it being. Like a lot of the little things were still there, but it wasn't like performance problems. It was like just like aesthetic to my aesthetic problems. And so I'm like, I'm so confused because I'm like, did I not like the pen because my expectations were here? I got it, and now it like didn't meet up. And where my like is the reason I like this pen so much now because my expectations now are like in the dirt. So bringing it from a 0 out of 10 to like neutral at like a 5 out of 10. I don't know. I don't know. These are the things that you just can't find out. You can't ever know. That's human nature. So that's why I put a little asterisk on it because I'd be willing to try another pen from that brand, and just see. Like, did I get a bum one? Was my own expectation there? I don't know. I don't know. Because that's the wonders of fountain pen life. Hmm. Hmm. All gone. Um, okay, the next pen I'm going to talk about that second pilot that woo. I'm going to talk about that second pilot that I mentioned. This is not it. This is the Pilot Metropolitan. But the pen that I would never buy again is the Pilot Night fountain pen. And it is because of the Metropolitan that I will never buy that pen again. So the Pilot Night is very similar to the Pilot Metropolitan. The one I had was all silver, like a light silver, like the clip here. And it it had a lot of the same similarities. It was mostly metal, had pretty much the same grip section, the same nib to my recollection. This pen is almost a decade old. Same nib to my recollection, but it was just like a skinnier version and a slightly less well built version. Oh, I love that clip. And so because of that, Sorry, I just got a notice from my condo board, so it distracted me. Squirrel. It's all good. It's not about me. And so because it is so similar to the Pilot Metropolitan, from what I remember, it was slightly less expensive, but not that far off the Pilot Metropolitan. Um, I like the body and the feel and the weight of this much, much better. It is the more popular pen, so that doesn't surprise me that it is the more popular of the two. Most people I talk about the Pilot Knight with don't really even know what that is, but it just seems like a less well built Pilot Metropolitan. So for that reason, you're out, as Heidi Klum would say. So it hurts me to have two pilots on this list, but there it is. Okay, I just looked back. I had to stop the clip and I had to look back. Audio is still good. I'm paranoid now. Okay, the fourth pen that I would never buy again is a TWSBI pen, but again, I put an asterisk because I have purchased many, many, many a TWSBI in my time. I'm probably always going to, when TWSBI comes out with a new pen, like an actual new model, not just like a new color, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna try it out. I don't dislike TWSBI as much as I used to. I've started to slowly come around. It will never be my favorite pen ever, but they're not as bad as I remember them. But this is sort of a two-in-one. It is sort of a two-in-one. I will never buy the mini versions again. So I've had the mini VAC 700. I've had the mini 580s. They're just not for me. I don't see the point in them personally. I feel like if you're gonna get a pocket pen, get an actual pocket pen. So if you're gonna get like a fancier, more expensive pocket pen, get like a Pilot E95S, or honestly, just stick with the good old, Kaweco Sport or something like that. And the reason I say that is because the minis always seem problematic. And yes, you're potentially going to get a golden one. But all of the minis I've had have had cracking problems. They're all very dry, which in general is a TWSBI thing for me. And I know a lot of you say, no, they're not. I do have to put an asterisk on that. I like my pens way wetter than the average person. But you still get like the weight and the bulk of like one of the full size pens, which for some people is a plus. But for me, the whole point of having a pocket pen and what's really, really tiny is you can take it on the go and you don't even know you've got it. So I just didn't like them. And the biggest thing is that they all cracked. Every one of them, whether it was the lid, whether it was the like grip section, all of them. And I know TWSBI say that they have fixed it, but I don't believe it because I had a mini VAC 700 2 years ago, I believe, and it cracked. And that was well after they said they fixed the cracking issues. Now, I could have had an old one. I will put that out there. I could have had an old one. Who knows? But it was awful. And that one even had the stub nib on it. Horrendous. Horrendous. So I just won't do it. I'm happy sticking with these two TWSBI fountain pens in my collection. These are more than enough for me. So the TWSBI minis are just, they're not for me. The fifth and final fountain pen that I will never buy again. I suppose I also have to put a little asterisk on this. If I were sent one, I would gladly accept it because it writes really well. It feels good in my hand. They always, for the most part, look beautiful, but cost to performance does not align for me. Just doesn't. And that is pretty much any fountain pen from the brand Monblanc. I know. I have owned and paid for with my own money 2 Montblanc fountain pens. They're both 147s. They were both in the Petite Prince model. I've since sold both of them. They're just not for me. I've used the 149 briefly. Someone did lend it to me to try out. And I would very much like to retry the Montblanc 149 now that it's been like many, many years. Like it's been more than 5 years. Um, just because I like this pen, the greatest pen of all time, the most important one that you should ever try is the Jinhao X159. Because I like the size of this now, and the sizing of the 149 was problematic to me at first, but that is no longer an issue. So I would be interested to retry it, but I would never buy it because the price point that you pay for any Montblanc pen is nuts. You're only paying for the name, and what you get for that price isn't worth it to me. It wrote phenomenally. Again, I liked the way that the pen felt in my hand. I liked the weight of it. The piston was really cool. Kind of a pain in the butt to clean. Yes, I know you could take it apart, but I refuse to do that because I know Montblanc is really big sticklers for their warranty program. And I've heard far, far too many stories of Montblanc denying someone for these just the dumbest reasons. So I refused to take it apart to clean it, which meant that it was a pain in the butt to clean. And if it is a pain in the butt to clean, I don't want it. If I can't clean it easily, then it's going to make me not want to use the pen. And I don't like it. So I did sell them. I never really used them. Again, they were wonderful pens. It's just I have so many others like the X159 or any of my billion Bennu fountain pens that I like so much more and to me write just as well, if not better, than the few Montblanc experiences that I've had. And they're way less expensive and they're perfectly easy to clean. So the little asterisk is I would never be against trying them if somebody were to let me borrow one for purposes of review or anything like that. I will absolutely gladly accept, but I will never spend my own money on a Montblanc fountain pen because again, the cost to the value ratio just not there for me. I get that, like, it's a lot of people's favorites, but it's just not for me. Fun fact, if you watched the earlier episodes of campaign 3 of Critical Role, Erica Ishii was on it for a little bit and she was taking notes with her Montblanc fountain pen and it exploded on her. It completely exploded on her on camera during the filming, and they had to give her like baby wipes and everything to try and clean herself and the area around her while she was doing it. Now, granted, it was kind of her own fault. She was like messing around with it, flipping it around, like just doing probably more than you should. But yeah, the whole thing exploded on her, and it was kind of funny. Fun fact. Fun little fountain pen fact. So those are the 5 pens that I would never buy again. I'm very curious though what your 5 fountain pens are. Just out of sheer curiosity. If you check the description down below, you'll find a link to my Patreon there if you want to help support me in what I do here. If you don't want to do it on a month-to-month basis, that's totally fine. You can also hit the super thanks link that is above the description but below the video for a one-time thanks so much. But other than that, even if you just watched to the end of this video, you are amazing. You are the reason I make these videos. And I will see you next time. Bye.